All right. Well, I'm in a different location today, and I hope that you can all hear me. I am talking to you about, are you looking at replacing one of your existing locks? And are you looking for something that is potentially a little bit more convenient, but also more secure? Well, that's what I'm going to be talking about today in my session. So, to give you, hold on a sec while I get this started. So I'll give you a little bit of background for the video for today. Basically, I had a lock, and I don't know if you can see, but there's a deadbolt portion just in the middle here. And what happened was it came loose, and so when you opened and closed this lock, it actually it would just stay there, right? Like you would have to like manually take it out, and that was really painful. And so I decided, okay, you know what? It is time to replace the lock. And so I was looking at different lock options. And of course, I've looked at smart locks for some time, the ones especially with the key codes, but that is not what I went with. I went with something that used biometrics. And so I want to talk today a little bit about the use of biometrics. For those of you who are just joining today, I want to say, like, I'm Dr. Ed. I'm just a geek kid who was shown a little bit of patience from his parents and grace from his grade 7 French teacher. I grew up in the northeast hood of Calgary next to Pine Ridge, and you don't have to be a historian to know why this community was nicknamed Crime Ridge. And I don't know where all of this stuff comes from, where people say, oh, Canadians don't lock their doors. That is not true. In my community, you locked your doors. Because they were not something that was like, oh, you'd be safe if you didn't lock your doors. Like that was not true at all. And the reality is, it was creativity that got me out of my slump and led me to my doctorate in computer science and over 15 years in educational technology. And I'm here to give back as a speaker and diverse decision making coach to innovative school districts and cutting edge organizations. With increased automation, with increased outsourcing, a lot of companies are embracing creative and diverse decision making, and they're seeing the ones that are embracing creative and diverse decision making are the ones that are seeing themselves stand out in the market. And so today we're talking a little bit about this Wiser lock, and I know there's several installation videos on the web, and I'm not going to dive into installation because that's not really the purpose of this video. The purpose is to talk about security and convenience, because I think that that's one of the things that people are really looking for. They're not just looking for something that is more secure. If you have to go through 10 different steps, forget it, right? It's just too much work. And so I'll show you how this one works. And one of my kids is probably going to come down soon. They're going to wake up and they're probably going to want to demo it as well. And I think that that's one of the key messages is we wanted something that was convenient and accessible for our children. And I think that the security and convenience for our children was a very important factor. I'm going to get a bunch of alarms going off now. Okay, so the first step is the product that I'm talking about is known as Halo Wiser's Halo Touch. So it's the Wiser brand in Canada, but if you're in the United States, it's called the Kwikset brand. Wiser and Kwikset are both owned by the company. And there's already been some videos of how to install this. And so I'm not going into how to install it, but I want to show you how it works. So the method that it works, are you ready? Okay, you're going to join me outside. All right, here we go. Okay, so I have the lock set up here. And essentially, to lock the door, you just need to press this button, and it uses a fingerprint sensor. So here, I'm just going to scan it, and it is now locked the door, so I cannot open it. You can see that the lock is gone, is active now. So that was very convenient. It also has a key underneath. that you can see. And so that's part of what enables this lock to work. And I've programmed it with 2 fingers, so both of the index fingers, and I've also programmed it with both thumbs as well. So I should be able to use a thumb. There we go. So why would you want to program the index finger versus the thumb? Well, one of the reasons is, let's say you're carrying groceries, right, with you, and you want to be able to just like walk up while you're carrying the groceries and be able to scan and unlock your door. That's a convenience, right? Like that's going to save you, that's going to be easier. You don't have to pull out your keys from your, you don't have to pull out your keys from your pockets or whatever, or your purse. That's something that's accessible to you. The other thing is, so this is kind of what they recommend. Index finger. I actually called the technical support yesterday, and this is what they recommend: is like use the index finger covers the most area. It performs well, but I found that for my wife, because depending on how tall you are, you see, like if you look at my height standing up, and the door lock here, it ergonomically it's a little bit awkward to do it this way. You prefer, like, because your hand has to be very low, kind of angled up, but if you're in this position, it's actually potentially more convenient to use it with your thumb. So index versus finger is another thing to consider. So I hope that that makes sense, guys. Oh, I see some Brits in the chat. Best followers. Okay, yes, one of those. Okay, no worries. Okay, so let's get rid of that one. Let's move that one over here. Okay, yeah. So I hope that makes sense. That is just a high level of what this does. And to give you a sense of like how you program it, all of it is programmed using there are 2 things. So, okay, I need to sit down. Hold on a sec. We're going inside. It's getting kind of cold. Yes. Woo. All right. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how this is programmed. But before I do that, I want to do one more thing about convenience. So this door is open now, you can see, and I am not going to lock it. Let's say you forgot to lock your door, then what can you do, right? Like what's gonna happen is you're gonna have your door unlocked the whole time. The auto lock feature, where it automatically locks after 5 minutes, is another convenience that you don't have to think about security. It could be, maybe it's not me that's forgetting, it could be one of the kids or somebody in the family just forgets. That's fine. It'll just take care of locking it for me. So security is built in automatically. So it automates some aspects of security. And we think about this in terms of our phones. We have already come to accept biometrics for unlocking our phones. So we are starting to accept that this is totally next level, right? Just think about this. Like we're talking about, like, this is access to my home now, right? And this is biometrics that is granting access potentially to your car. It's like we're not trusting keys and stuff. And I'm looking forward to. I looked for a lockpicking lawyer. I love his videos, just about like this particular lock, the Halo Touch. And I believe he's already done one on the quickset lock mechanism as well. And the reality is, if somebody wants to get into your house with the right equipment and the right training and the right skills, there are physical ways. And so if there is a compromise, so for example, a physical compromise on this lock, then it's there permanently. Anybody who can understand the techniques of how to access it will be able to get in. But then there's another aspect, which is the biometrics, and I don't think that he has explored hacking the biometrics of it. And so that's the topic that I'm interested in today, that I want to talk a little bit more about. And I think it's important because as you start introducing more and more biometrics into your house, you will start to realize, like, this has huge implications for what does convenience and security actually look like in the future. So I hope that makes sense. So the first step is I have to use the Wiser app. So I'm going to open that app up and I'm going to show it to you. And so the way it works is you have a, oh yes, I turned up Bluetooth. Yes. Okay, that's okay. So I have the Wiser app, and in it you have a number of people. And for the people who are on the Wiser app, and it's the same for QuickSet, you can add a person, and then you can add 2 fingers onto that one account. So you can add, I said like add index fingers. So I put both index finger left and right hand, and then I put both. I have another user account called add thumb, and that is like 2 different users, but it doesn't matter. Like you can program it to have a particular time that people can access. You can limit the amount of time that people can access the door lock. And you can also allow it only during certain times of the week. So if it's a recurring thing, like say the grandparents are coming over, but they're always coming over at this time, then you can allow it at specific times. So there are different ways that you can secure it. The other thing that I found really valuable was, you didn't see it earlier, but yes. So that was the automatic lock. 5 minutes passed, and then it locked by itself. So very convenient. And you can also see a notification on my phone that says Wiser front door was locked on whatever day. So it was locked, it was unlocked. And so you might be wondering, well, okay, what happens if somebody tries to like attack the lock? If they try to, use a fingerprint multiple times and they fail, do I get a notification? So I called the Wiser support, and they told me after 3 times, so 3 failed attempts, what will happen is 1, you will receive a notification on your phone, and 2, you will also receive an email, and I've received these emails as well. They sent me an email saying, "Oh, by the way, your lock has been, like, somebody has attempted your lock, n number of times," and that was something that I found very convenient as well. And so, just another factor. Oh, hey, how's it going, buddy? Do you want to demonstrate how to open the lock? Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Okay, you come on down, buddy. Are you ready? Okay, so I'm gonna lock the door. You want to go outside? I'm gonna lock the door, okay? And then you can try opening the lock. Are you ready? All right, I'm locking the door. Okay, I've locked the door, and so, he's failed twice. He's failed 3 times. Oh, and by the way, if you fail enough times, oh, there he goes. Man, you almost didn't get in there. Did you make it this time? Good job.
Just needed the other hand.
You just needed the other hand. So that's why having the other hand is very helpful. Sometimes when it comes to scanning, if you have something on your fingers, oh, by the way, I should mention what type of scanner is used is a infrared scanner. So this is different from the capacitive scanner that was used if you have like an older iPhone, for example. Those fingerprint scanners are usually capacitive. So this one uses IR. And the consequence of that, from what I've heard, is that sometimes there isn't good reliability in terms of, like, if your fingers are wet, then it may create like a big bright spot. So you would need to like wipe off your fingers if they had some liquid on it in order for it to work. And that's why having like multiple fingers is helpful. It's like if one doesn't work, then use the other. And I recommend like programming different hands as well, or different, like use your finger and your thumb, like use a few different options so that you've got like 4 or 5 different ways of getting in. And the other thing I would add is that, really what this means is that we have a big change. The use, hey buddy, how's it going? Hey, I have a question for you. do you like the sensor? Do you like being able to look? So the kids are now like when we go home, they don't want to go through the garage door, which doesn't have the new lock. It has like the front door has the one, so they'll walk around the house in order to use this lock. So it's quite convenient. And it's fun for them. And for us, like it means that eventually we want to get them to the point where they can just walk to school and they can press the button and then they can unlock and then get into the house. And then they don't have to remember like, oh, I lost my keys, or like, because if they lose their keys, then that becomes a security risk for the whole home. But they don't lose their fingerprint, right? And so like, as long as they're able to use one of the digits, that's a convenience as well, right? Because there's always the risk that they might lose it. And yeah, it doesn't work flawlessly. Like even when I was trying it, like it failed one or two times, but I think that that's okay. So when it comes to biometrics, I feel that really we are getting to a point where we're trusting our identity more and more with technology. And what this means is that we need to make sure that we know where that data goes. And we need to take the data and the privacy and security very, very seriously, because this is your home, right? Like it's no longer, oh, somebody accesses my phone and they get my access to my email. No, like they access, my household, they access my family, they access my kids. And so this is very important. And so the thing I would say here is know where the data goes. And so when I called Wiser, here's what they told me, is that when you are scanning the fingerprint, where does the fingerprint information get stored? I was relieved to hear that the data gets stored on the device itself. So let's say I buy a second one of these locks, I have to reprogram all of the fingerprints on this device. But it also means that I better be careful if I sell this device, right? Like you may prefer to like just leave, like take the device with you if you move homes or something, because your biometrics and your information is there. But you can delete it. You can delete the information through the app, and I've done that before. I asked, okay, so does this biometric information get shared with the internet, with the app? This app is connected using Wi-Fi. So what are the implications of that? So the implications are that the app is the one that gives you the notifications. Is it potentially possible that somebody could access the app? Yeah, I mean, it has its own security, and I've checked it, and it's like, okay, yeah, so it uses the standard encryption. Just like anything, like it can be compromised. But at the very least, if somebody does open it using the app, I get the notification. So I know if somebody's trying to like open and close the door. And I think that level of awareness is just as important as actually having the security as well. It's like, do you know if somebody's opening your door? Most of the time you do not. You don't have that awareness. So that's important. Hey, bud, how's it going? I know. So that's something that I think is very important. We are starting to, like, as we get closer and closer to the metaverse, we are trusting more of our physical assets, like our home, our car, our lives, to the digital domain. And so our security and all of that is very, very important. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them. Oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And if you want to learn a little bit more about AI parenting, you can just visit our site, aiparenting.live. And we have an email list you can sign up for. Our goal is to start doing our masterclass soon. This is just one of the many areas that I want to talk about, because we need to start taking data security, information security, way more seriously than we have in the past, simply because the implications of this become huge, right? Like if this information gets compromised. But I do think that the convenience will be one of those big trade-offs that's going to cause people to go, yeah, I'm more willing. I'm more willing to give my information to a company in order to have that convenience of being able to get into my house very quickly. Like I spoke to my brother about this, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, where can I get one of these?" And I told him, "Yeah, you can just like pick them up on Amazon. They're like $215 Canadian. They're probably cheaper in the U.S. And so, yeah, like pick them up. You know, they are a um, it's another way of getting the convenience and the security. And I do think it's more secure than having one of the keypads, because the keypads, like somebody just looks at it, like they can see what your key codes are. Or even if they aren't looking, like I could use an infrared camera, right? Just one of those FLIR cameras, and I could see like which parts were hot afterwards, and I could pretty easily determine. And people have used this. Like I've seen some computer science papers where people are looking at your password on your keyboard, and so you type your password, and then you, like, let's pretend that the person walks away. Like somebody could scan just with the IR to roughly figure out these are the kinds of keys that you pressed, and then they go, well, there's only so many combinations of those keys. Which one of those forms a word, and then you would know. So again, if people want to compromise, like they can, but with biometrics is different. If they compromise, they've compromised your security forever, right? Like you cannot get a new fingerprint, you cannot get a new, like a new face, if somebody compromises that information. So that's where the stakes are. The security is more important. And so before I go, I want to show you guys our kids, um, Jackson Pollock. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, AIparenting.live, and I will see you guys in the